This is Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. Tomorrow's actually, but that's the whole weekend. Yeah. Next week.
All righty. All right, folks. How we doing up there, tech team? Tech team, how we doing up there? 1 minute.
We have a shooting competition. Okay, I'm not. I don't know who she or who she is. She.
SOS, come on up. All right, SOS, come on up. Everybody, let's rise and offer praises to God.
upon the earth I came to life. In the world God prepared one rejoicing land of freedom. I am chosen to build, to reveal the truth of God, His purpose and His will. Sacrifice yourself and live, all for His desire, all for His desire. All heaven sings a mighty song, inspiration divine, for a new Eden begins now. Spread the message to all. Sacrifice yourself to build our Lord's new world of life. Seek the land of freedom now, all for His desire, all for His desire. We seek the new eternal base, blessed family of God, long awaited by the Father, God of goodness above. Praying the great new truth of kindness and goodwill, pioneer new heaven and earth, all for His desire, all for His desire. Within a day of bright new life, stand upholding the right, in the pure new life eternal. Raise the standard of good, praise the Father of all good, our glorious true ideal. Build a whole new world of peace. We will build it now, we will build it now. Whole new world of peace. We will build it now, we will build it now. Now the light of glory arises like the sun that shines on high. Now awakened into freedom, oh revive your spirits, oh revive. Wake the mountains and the valleys, bring alive the springs of the earth. Light the world forever with the light of your rebirth. Light the world forever with the light of your rebirth. We are called to bring back the glory to the life of God above. Now the Lord in His greatness fills the universe with tender love. Ever seeking souls awaken, ever calling them to be free. How shall I attend Him who is calling to me? How shall I attend Him who is calling to me? From the dark of death I awaken and rejoice to live in grace. When the one who came to save me holds me tenderly in His embrace, I rejoice to feel the comfort of the love He has for me. What a blessing of glory to rejoice eternally. What a blessing of glory to rejoice eternally. Now He lifts me up to embrace me in the blessing that is mine. What a blessing to receive Him in a love so tender and divine. How can I
All right, let's have Chief come up and give us a prayer for Memorial Day and all the veterans that is coming up tomorrow. Chief.
Say a prayer first. Father, please hear us today, because I want you to know how grateful I am to be here. I have found a home. This is my second year to be here. You knew me before I was born, and I hope I have served you. I've almost died several times, and you keep sending me back for a reason. So I'm here to try to call in our veterans. I want them to come here and hear the truth and find out a path to Jesus and a path to home where we can all be proud. I've met so many wonderful people here. They're honest, they're sincere, they're hardworking. And the pastor here is a real deal, and we know it. So I want everybody to come here. I want those who have lost their thoughts and their minds and are diverted for other reasons to collect your brains, put it back together, and follow the truth and the facts that you'll hear in this here building and you'll hear in the King's Report. I ask you this in Jesus' name. As you.
Amen. Not you. Thank you, Chief.
Is this working? Yeah. Okay. The first time I came on the stage to talk was to introduce the King. So for days I'm worrying what I'm going to say, and I thought it was such a great honor. So then I was nervous enough when I came in, and then up comes, I thought it was just me walk up and say, introduce the King. Well, guess what happened? We're here. I'm sitting up there sweating now because first one is Cookman Jim. He comes down. Oh, how do you follow that act? I mean, it's the sharpest pencil in the box. And then after they did that, I was even more nervous because, you know, what I got to do. And then the next thing they do, they put on a video on Father's wife. And then I going to follow that? So today, I come up first, so I'm not going to be that nervous, but I do want to say a couple things, if you'll bear with me. One is a soldier's life is not just the soldiers. It's the whole family, the entire family. When I was just a wee tot, about 3 years old, my grandfather was still alive. He was dying. He carried the flag for General Sherman during the Civil War. Yeah, I'm that old. I'm 83. And there was so much of the singing, and the songs he used to sing was the Battle Hymn of the Republic. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. I remember that. And then the part about Jesus. He died to make men holy as we died to make men free. And then my grandfather had another song, Marching Through Georgia, which isn't popular in the South. But it goes, get the good old bugles, boys, and bring the marching song and sing it like we used to sing at 50,000 strong. And then hooray, hooray, we shout the Jubilee, because this flag will make you free. My grandfather lost his leg. My grandmother said he felt worse because his horse got shot from under him when he got hit with a cannon shot. But our family tradition has always been, it's Memorial Day. I know what it is to come from a Gold Star family because I lost a brother, a bombing over Germany during the Second World War, the ball bearing factory to stop the German tanks and planes. I know what it was like to go with my mother to deliver pies and things to those Gold Star families because you knew everybody in those days. And my brother who fought in the Korean War, he got the Air Medal. His plane was called Slow Freight. You can find that on the internet where he dropped bombs and volunteered for more combat missions than they were required to go for. And of course, this guy here, when my mother made me promise I wouldn't join the Marines, so I went in the Army of the paratroopers and wound up in the Special Forces. And we were the first to form the Green Berets. And my grandfather's song of freeing the people in the South, freeing the slaves, I got to do that. I got to do that. And I guess, Grandpa, if you're listening, I made you proud because I was awarded the Warrior's Medal of Valor, which is second to the Congressional Medal of Valor. But it's not about me. The message I'm trying to get across is war is a family thing. It's a family thing. Protecting the family. Boy, we hear that here, don't we? Protecting America. We hear that. Protecting women. Now, the women I meet here, there are a lot of them, my God, they're good shots. My wife was a good shot. They were darn good shots. And so the message that our pastor and the Queen are trying to get across here is so important, and more people should come, more people should follow, and more people should give up all that false stuff and come here. And that's my prayer today. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Chief. God bless you, brother. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's see. Thank you, Chief. One more time. Let's give it up for our Chief. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. All right, folks, please be seated. All righty, we've cut down the announcements in half. How's that? I have a new rule. You can't, they're almost 30 slides. I said, bring it down to 10. They brought it to 15. Okay, so compromise. Welcome, everybody. Washington Post magazine cover has come out. This is nuts, folks. This is crazy. This is crazy. You understand? This is nuts. Washington Post, they are our arch enemy. You understand? Washington Post is our arch enemy from the Washington Times, and that is their cover for this month. Locked and loaded by the Lord. There you go. Ridiculous. You know, I don't know, but I think the Holy Ghost prevented. I don't know what came over this guy, but what is it? Somebody said hell freezes over when Washington Post writes a decent article about you. So it is the end times, definitely, because Washington Post is. It's actually quite an impressively not even neutral. It has a lot of positive elements in it. I mean, things that in the past they would take out, completely omit, you know what I mean, and make us look at wacky. We don't know what they're going to do. We know Jeff Bezos is a total totalitarian. So I think they're secretly, they don't know why, but they're somehow interested in the crowns. They're interested in the crown. They don't like the other accoutrement, but they like the crown. Ah. No, not in the kingdom, Bezos. But that is the Washington Post. A&E. A&E is coming out with their program starting this Monday, so that's tomorrow. And it's called Cults and Extreme Beliefs, you see. Ah, yes. We're a cult and extreme believers because we believe in the Second Amendment and we protect the U.S. Constitution. That's extreme nowadays, okay? That's extreme. But obviously, all the lunatics on the left, you know, they're screaming, their hats are flipping around, you know, they're going, their hair is on fire, they're going crazy. Seeing this thing. But if you read this, anybody on the conservative side, anybody who has common sense, they'll read it and they'll be like, what's so strange about that? I agree with that. You know what I mean? It's like, what is so strange about that? So the A&E show is coming out tomorrow, and we don't know where we'll arrive, what segment we'll be in, what show, what episode. We don't know how they'll edit it. For example, obviously they edit it in a negative way. I mean, A&E is notorious. They're owned by Disney. So one of the real promoters of free sex culture and relativism and, you know, hypersexualizing kids at a young age. So Disney owns A&E, and we know, of course, they will try to do a slam job. They will try to do a very evil job on us. So that's coming down the pipeline next week. So we don't know. If in episode 1, they may do 3 different groups. They may just focus on one group per episode. We don't know how they're going to organize it. Okay, but that's coming down the pipeline. Also, we just did an interview on GCN with Mr. Larry Pratt on his nationally syndicated radio show, the Larry Pratt News Hour. We did Gun Owners News Hour. And that will be airing June 2nd. So that's not airing yet, but that will air June 2nd. Amazing. What an amazing time we had with Mr. Pratt. And this time he invited us on the show. So we were on his show. And that's carried by GCN, for example, is the national radio station company that carries like InfoWars, and they're the main carriers of InfoWars and other, you know, major syndicated radio shows. So we're grateful Mr. Larry Pratt invited us on to talk about the book that's coming out, Rod of Iron Kingdom, and wow, just so grateful. He just praised the book. He was so supportive. And what can I say? I'm just so grateful for Mr. Pratt. Let's give Mr. Pratt. He's a real John the Baptist figure. I mean, incredible. So there you go. That's coming down. Now we have an announcement for the Brides and Daughters of Christ tactical shooting competition that we had yesterday. How fun was that, girls? Was that amazing? Was that fun? Woo! Man, that was great. Okay. And we have our winner here. Oh, hold on. How does this go? Okay. Ooh. And our winner of the tactical shooting competition is Ekyung. Ekyung is our winner. The $300 cash prize goes to this beautiful bride of Christ, everybody. There you go. $300 prize. She wins the Rod of Iron 2018 tactical shooting competition. Very nice, very nice. Okay, and the scoring was all done by Mr. Williams there, our master of ceremonies, let's say, of the event. Everybody did a great job. Hey, you girls tore it up with the AR. Do you see why the totalitarians fear the AR and why it's really the Rod of Iron compared to a shotgun or pistol? No comparison. And did you see how all the girls, all of you almost did excellent with the AR? Almost all the girls who competed did excellent with the AR. So you can see how controllable it is, and of course that's why totalitarians and communists and socialists do not want that in the hands of people, because it's so much. You saw how powerful it is, but also how controllable it is. So everybody else did a great job. Let's give it up for all the other girls who competed. Great job. You're gonna have to step up your game though a little bit next time, okay? You're gonna have to step up your game. So next time you're even better. A lot of the girls didn't even practice before they went in, honestly. A queen. But I don't know who. But next time with more practice, I'm sure they're going to do a lot better, okay? This is really great because this really builds foundational work. It puts a lot of stress on you. You're shooting in front of a lot of people. There's stress, anxiety involved, you know. all those kind of things. And of course, you know, Doug is watching how you're doing reloading and tactical reloading and these basic skills. So marksmanship and, you know, those hitting those little circles, they're hard. Those little plates, they're 10-inch plates. Is it 10-inch? Very hard to hit. So, you know, it was a fun event. Oh, let's give Doug Williams and Andy a good shout out for organizing that fun event. And there you go, folks. Blade Show is coming up also, June 1st through 3rd. That's again where a lot of Second Amendment folks, a lot of self-defenders are gathering together, a lot of able-type people gathering together in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia. Okay? So we'll be heading down there with the ninjas and people around the area, sanctuary in the area. Contact Greg Knoll if you need to connect with us and camp out. And that is coming up this weekend. Not this week, the upcoming weekend. That is coming up. So Blade Show, look out for Blade Show. 900 exhibitors, the biggest in the world. So all you self-defenders. One 15-passenger van, that's it. Okay, come and see Greg. It's almost full. And, you know, you don't have to ride the van. If you have a car, you can drive down, right? So, but this is an awesome opportunity, and of course, it's good for all the people, young people who are training. You have to meet people in the self-defender community. These are the able-type protector sheepdog people in our world. They're in our nation. And these are the people that gather together. So you young people who are training, very important for you to go to these events so you're meeting and networking with people who are in the same kingdom, okay? And understand that your training is not just isolated, it's not just a small place we're doing it only. There's a lot of different self-defenders with the same mindset. They understand. They don't understand all the biblical context, maybe, but they understand, they're given that gift of knowing and wanting to protect people. Okay, so this is a great opportunity for young people to go meet and see you are not alone. You're not isolated. You are a huge community, and self-defenders are only growing as they get free from the liberal machine of brainwashing. Okay, so come and join us there. Blade Show. We'll be down there for a couple of days at least in Atlanta, Georgia, for the event. Okay. HSU registration has begun. Summer HSU is starting up. Sign up now. Classes fill up quickly. Go to the ChristKingdomGospel.org. Click Classes tab to sign up. We have video? Okay. All right, okay. Well, anyways, summer's coming up, so make sure you go to that website and click Classes, okay? 56th Day of True All Things is coming up. Everybody knows what the schedule is. So we've talked about it every Sunday. All right, there's the dress code, etc. Ancestor Liberation as well. If you need to see these announcements again, just go back and watch the Sunday service, and you can pause it wherever you want, okay, instead of us going through. And here, order your Rod of Iron Kingdom book. That will be up. It's available for pre-order now, and it will be coming out very, very soon, okay? Thank you, Rod Cameron, and whoever else was on that team to help organize that book cover. Hey, everybody like that? Isn't that a nice book cover? Very well done. You see the shattered potter's vessels? Do you see that? Those are the ones we actually shattered with the gold one. Yeah, the gold rod of iron. All right, so that's coming up. Also, join us for the Bible study. That is at Wednesdays at 7. Join Bill and Lowell. There's in chapters 10 of Hebrews now. Come join the study of the good word. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Gun safety program for kids. June 3rd for kindergarten classes 4 through 7 and elementary class ages 8 through 10. June 10th for middle school class ages 12 through 14. Now, learning gun safety for your kids is absolutely essential. For example, Tig, who we had on the show, and of course he's the Benghazi hero, and he's does the series for Core Arms, etc. Huge, massive, huge hero, huge modern day hero. But he says, you know, his kids are all trained. They're 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever, 7, 8 years old. They're all trained. So if daddy even has firearms out, the kids know. They know not to touch it. They know to tell daddy and stuff like that. So you have to train your kids. It's your responsibility. It is absolutely your responsibility, parents. If you have the power of the rod of iron, you have to train your kids to understand this tool. And then, of course, if they're small, to not touch it, and then, you know, let daddy or mommy know that that you see one. Or, of course, as they get older, then you train them in the actual art so they understand how to manipulate that tool and not are, you know, brain dead, okay? Which can lead to that ignorance factor, which then leads to accident factor, okay? So this will be Sunday school time. More information, website, eddieeagle.com. Any questions, contact Roseanne for the gun safety program. Sanctuary Summer Camp's also coming up. Everybody knows that's coming up. Contact Gideon Ruucci for more information. Also order your P3M no-gi now. That's the whole spat and spats, the rash guard and shorts fighting set. Concealed Carry U is happening today, 2 p.m. for 1 hour. Fellowship Potluck is happening. Bride of Christ Bakery Bake Sale is happening. And let's thank our food ministry team, everybody. All right, that's it. Hey, we got the announcement. Hey, that was way better. Sunday school, Sunday school. All right, Sunday school. Thank you, Sunday school teachers. We love you. Thank you, everybody, Sunday school teachers. Can you believe it? We finished announcements in less than an hour. Very good. All right, folks. So A&E is coming out with the Cults and Extreme Beliefs show. Let's see the trailer first. Go ahead. Hit the lights, boys.
For almost 2,000 people.
Or girls, whoever's near the light.
It sounds funny to say it, but beware of people like me.
Volume. Let's do that again. Volume, tech team.
I'm responsible for almost 2,000 people coming into this group. It sounds funny to say it, but beware of people like me.
You saying anybody could become a member of a cult?
When we think about harmful cults, we don't think about our next door neighbors.
We were being groomed by a master pedophile.
I'm the only branded person who's publicly speaking about it.
They put their trust into something that turned out to be a monster.
Rod of iron, the equalizer of force.
You could have a potential Waco on your hands.
Everything in my body is saying, get the out of here, out of here.
We've gone to the FBI, and they keep telling us their hands are tied.
This is going to turn out in history to be one of the worst things this country has seen.
I still feel like I'm not free.
Okay, there you go. A&E is coming up. We barely made it into that trailer, by the way. They gave it a little piece. But again, as you know, again, you have to realize this is the internet age. People, the mainstream media and the leftist narrative cannot control the narrative. So yes, they have a program on us, but all it does is increase people's awareness of us. And so people can come for themselves, look at our websites, read the book. They can see what we believe. They can see how, what we're teaching, what we're talking. And people for themselves can look it up on the internet, YouTube channels, you name it. And if they stop banning us from the YouTube, they keep on shutting down our live streaming, But again, this is the internet age. This is another age, folks. They cannot control the narrative. And so, young children who are being brainwashed in public education schools into the Marxism, cultural Marxism, a lot of them, of course, are still in that modality, but now there's a lot more searching. A lot of young people, for example, the younger than millennial crowd, for example, doesn't even watch CNN. They don't watch MSNBC. They're probably not going to watch A&E. They're looking at different views on the internet from younger people. So they're going to watch Roaming Millennial. They're going to watch Laura Southern or Stephen Crowder as a comedian. Or they're going to, you know what I mean? They're going to have they're going to have a different, plethora of media outlets that they're accessing. And it's not CNN. It's not MSNBC. So this A&E crowd, who really under 40 or maybe 30 is watching A&E? The young people are certainly not watching A&E. A lot of them probably never heard of A&E until this came up. But of course, A&E is owned by Disney, and it is a large powerhouse for the probably 35 and up crowd. So it is, and of course, they're doing a whole section on us. Now, we know how the liberal media works. We know how they are a machine, they're a racket, and they're also a propaganda organization for the DNC funded by George Soros and multinational corporations, including big pharma drugs. You'll notice that in the interview that I did with them, and that was Elizabeth Vargas is the host. She's apparently some famous news reporter. I never heard of her, but she was, she came down here in a very, very how do I say, entitled sort of white privilege manner, okay, and trying to pretend to be nice, but of course everything she says is try to throw me off, try to harm True Father's legacy, anything is always, and just shooting from question to different question, jump on purpose to try to throw me off. So if you've ever done interviews, for example, you only have one shot at it. It's not like you have 10 shots, you don't have redos and stuff like that. So you have to be on the spot, you have to be on point, right, ready to go. And they're unforgiving. Everything you say is on record, so everything you say they're going to twist, especially the leftist propaganda media. So we know they're going to have it edited. We know they're going to splice it up, and we know they're going to make it, try to make us as bad as possible. These are extremists. They're militants. Local law enforcement should be threatened. They should be on the FBI watch list, etc. They're going to really try to ramp things up. Okay. So we have to be aware. Obviously, if you follow the King's Report, or you listen to Sunday Service, you understand at least some basic level how the liberal machine and the social, Marxist machine operates. Okay, we dissect that and break that down all the time, especially for the young, brain-dead, children who are being indoctrinated in school. Not that our sanctuary kids are all brain dead. Many of them, are quite awake for their age. They're quite advanced. And for example, some of them are starting their YouTube videos and getting quite well known in the freedom and sovereignty communities. Okay, but there are other ones that are less, definitely much more brain dead. Okay, that still have so much residue of liberal indoctrination that they don't know of, and they're starting to get free from that. But again, it's always a battle. Battery. Okay, battery. Let's see, where's the other mic? Get another mic. Test. Okay, that's a red light. We could fill that battery up. So the A&E thing is planning to come today. And like I promised, I said, before the A&E thing comes out, well, we're not stupid. We've dealt with these devils a long time. We've dealt with this enemy of the Washington Post very, very long time. So we're not stupid. And we know how media operates. And when they came, of course, they brought their $1 million stage and $100,000 cameras, etc. But we also filmed everything as well. We filmed everything. We had mics and everything, so we know exactly what we said. We have it on record. And of course, I said that before this comes out, I'm going to release it before then you'll be able to compare. You can see how much they cut, edit, splice, twist, how they try to disfigure what you're trying to say. If you're able to see it beforehand, obviously, and share it to your friends, etc., you can see that what they're doing is they're trying to do an axe job. Okay, they have a particular purpose and agenda as they move, the liberal machine. Okay, and of course, their major problem with us is that we're calling for we're not calling for disarmament. Their biggest thing, and the biggest impediment to totalitarianism, communism, Marxism worldwide historically, is the armament of the people. Amen. So they are so scared of that because we are training people, we are advocating and encouraging other communities to train and become armed and exercise their constitutional and Second Amendment rights and their human rights and not be slaves to a tyrannical state. And the more people there are like that around the world, the less centralized governments, George Soros and the Bilderberg Group and these evil real Satanists can't do anything about it. They cannot control this world when the good, normal citizens have the ability to defend themselves and fight tyranny, fight back. Okay? That is absolutely critical. And that's why, of course, liberal media hates us. They hate us for that, and they think we're nuts, especially because, we teach from Scripture, we teach from the Bible, and we clearly show, I think more than any other ministry that you can look out there in the entire Christian evangelical world, what the kingdom will look like, what the kingdom will be, and what it means to be a co-heir with Christ, what it means to have the accoutrements of the kingdom, what it means to have power and love and a sound mind. What it means to fulfill the commandments of God, love your neighbor, and be a sheepdog, or as Proverbs 28 says, be like the righteous, be as bold as lions, like a lion. Like you can fight anything in the kingdom. You are strong, and you are able to defend that kingdom. Okay, so as promised, as we now are moving up towards Memorial Day weekend, we're gonna, for the first time here, release this video now. We'll let you all see it. Hope you enjoy the interview. This is the one with Elizabeth Vargas. And then here's a fun exercise. When they do the segment on us, compare it. Compare it. It's going to be on the web. All I have to do is click a button and it's out. Okay? And it's going to be on the web. And see what they do in terms of deception, in terms of trying to shift the narrative into Marxism, in terms of trying to, slander and access. But again, this is the internet age. They have much less power than they think. Again, the folly of the totalitarians is that they always think they're more powerful than they are. When they're losing the moral high ground, they have no moral high ground. What their system is based on fundamentally is immorality and theft and the use of force to dominate people. So their system is fundamentally evil. Whereas the kingdom of God and Chaniguk, as even the Washington Post had to admit, the Washington Post, and it's a quote, Sean Moon's Constitution of Chaniguk is a powerful document. That's the Washington Post. I'm not bragging or anything, but the Washington, our arch enemies have to admit, okay, our arch enemies have to admit that this is a powerful document, and they will have quite a hard time controlling that kind of nation when, and of course, it spreads over the world. All right, that being said, let's go to the interview with A&E. Play it on.
You're taller than her. I think we all thought you were.
I may hit that.
There, much better.
And then, hey, Hero, can you come up on that right above us? Yeah.
There's their $1 million stage.
I'm sure we've transformed your
They sent 20 people.
Oh, that's not, yeah.
20 people.
church a bit here.
A little bit.
Thank you for letting us
No
do
problem,
that.
no problem, yeah.
And we'll restore it to its exact.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Looks like you've got quite a volleyball game going on out front.
Oh, are the kids playing volleyball? I didn't see that.
Volleyball.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a gorgeous day for it.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect day.
This is the little
How did
kibitz scene.
today's sermon? Is that what you call it, a sermon?
Yeah, I mean, it's more like we do like a gathering on Sunday, but it's less of a traditional, Sunday service worship day on Sunday. It's more of just a gathering day that we do.
Is there another day that instead you do that sort of?
Well, the Anshil is done every 8 days, so it actually falls on every week. Every day. Per week. So it will move per week. So, yeah, my father instituted that basically that each day would be a sacred day for studying scripture and the word, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess traditionally the Roman Sunday is where people get together. So yeah,
So when is the next day that is the actual service?
There's not like a formal service like Anshil, but what we do is we do like a broadcast called the King's Report,
mm-hmm.
and
so
that's
people will tune into that.
Right. So that's like in honor of the Anshil,
mm-hmm.
Sort of 8th day Sabbath.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when is that day next? Like, is that tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday?
Do you know, Tim? Do you know when that is?
I'll have to check to see when the next one is. I've lost count.
Yeah. He'll pull it up real quick.
Their crew is like preparing, and it's not the actual interview yet, but it's how it's. Interviews start like this, the kibitzing and all this kind of stuff.
It moves from.
I gathered.
Yeah.
I gathered. Makes for complex calendar keeping.
A little bit. It sanctifies each day, though, which is nice. Yeah.
Hadn't thought about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So before it airs on A&E,
Did you also
you're seeing
interview
it first.
Tim, or?
I didn't.
Uncut.
But, one of our producers did.
Okay.
So he was very. And I've seen several of your King's Reports.
Okay.
So when did you go to Harvard? What years?
I went to, that was 2006, I believe. I ended up in Korea. Yeah, so I graduated 2006 spring.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 2004 fall, early 2000s. Yeah, divinity school.
Where did you go to undergraduate school?
Went to Harvard Extension School. Yeah, so went to Extension School there. Finished up my undergrad at the Extension School, and then transferred in because you basically study with the same professor.
He's such a disappointment for Harvard. Disappointing.
Made my way to divinity school.
Didn't your sister also go to the divinity school there?
Yeah, I have a lot of siblings went there. Yeah, divinity.
How many siblings went there?
I think yeah, one of my sisters went to divinity. Oh, I'm sorry, two of my sisters I believe went to divinity, and one of my brothers went to business school. Yeah, up in Cambridge.
Of course, Kukchang went to economics.
Big Harvard alums.
Well, you know, it's an Asian thing.
Is it?
It's like a lot of pressure.
Stanford was the Asian
in
thing.
an Asian home, you know. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit of a, yeah. I think Asian folks can understand.
So tell me about the Sanctuary Church. How did you start it and why?
Sanctuary was started in 2013. That was after my father passed. And it was started because, you know, he, on 3 different occasions, he made me his heir and successor. And he did crowning ceremonies, you know, twice in Korea, one in America, at the New York hotel that we owned there. And that was previous to his, what we call the Ascension. So it was clear that, you know, he had selected me. I didn't choose myself, but he had selected me to be his heir successor. After he passed, then many things were changing. Many theological issues came up with my mother wanting to go in a different direction. And of course, theologically, I couldn't support that. So essentially, you know, in one way or another, either me resigning from certain organizations or me being removed from certain organizations, I moved to PA and with my brother here, and in the winter of 2013, we started.
So your father claimed to be humanity's savior. Since do you also claim to be humanity's savior? Or is that what you?
No, I'm just his heir and successor. You know.
So he's still the savior.
Yeah, he holds that sort of unique solution.
Are you a spokesperson, a prophet?
Well, he designated like a kingship. He also chose one of my children, and so he designated like a kingly line.
And so the picture of him and then you and then your son.
Right, and that's also my son. He chose to, you know, be his heir and representative in the 3rd generation. After.
But what does that mean exactly? Does he speak to you still somehow, or communicate with you?
Well, we believe that you know, he continues to work through the what we call the 2nd generation kingship or the 3rd generation kingship. But essentially, you know, it's I guess you could understand it. It would be easy to understand, kind of like the Pope or something like that in our community. So having the theological, theological say in terms of interpretation, things like that, and also carrying on his work and his mission.
So you see yourself as the Pope in your community?
I mean, that's probably not the, you know, it's not the language we use. We don't use Pope because we don't obviously agree with that kind of system of church governance.
Language, though?
Like 2nd king, and my son would be the 3rd king.
But you refer to as king.
Yeah, our brethren and brothers and sisters.
So if we're sitting in your church right now, a lot of chairs. How many followers do you have? Do you know exactly?
Yeah, we don't keep like a registry, and we don't, you know.
Do you fill up all the seats in here?
It depends on the different events, you know. And at the event that kind of went a little viral on February 28th, you know, it was quite full. You know, but on a normal Sunday services, then you will have maybe 100 to 200 people that come.
And those 200 people call you King?
Well, second king.
Second King,
yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, or just many times just second king, or just, you know, Pastor Sean sometimes too.
What do they call your son?
Shinjun. It depends on the person. Some people may want to call him Third King, or some people would call him, Shinjun, because he doesn't. He's now just turned 13, going on 14. So
that's a pretty heavy mantle for a 12 or 13-year-old to be wearing.
Well, I mean, we see it from a biblical context. Mm-hmm. So in Romans 8:17, Christ talks about co-heirs with Christ, and he says that you are, inheritors with God and co-heirs with Christ, mm-hmm. And that you will rule with Christ. And so, in the kingdom, when we talk about the kingdom of God, it's a place where the normal citizen is also a king and queen. So it's a nation of kings. It's a nation of queens. And so it's a nation that stands, with the King of Kings and his kingship line, but the citizens have kingly rights. So they have, the rights of kings that have been enjoyed, what we call, fallen history, or in the satanic history, or fallen history, coming from a Judeo-Christian background. So in the kingdom, I think it's different from our normal view of kingship lines with centralized monarchies. And, in the kingdom, we see the kingdom of God as a very decentralized, where the citizens also have the right of kings, in a nutshell, that is, the right of territory, the right to be free from taxation, the right to be armed and have a territory that is protected.
But your dad said he had a more elevated, more important position as, quote, savior of humanity.
Right, Lord of Second Advent, or returning Christ, yeah.
Right, yeah. That he was the returning Christ. Mm-hmm. So that makes your father God.
It makes him returning Jesus.
Returning Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that make you?
His son. I mean, it makes me his heir and successor. It doesn't make me the Messiah, or it doesn't make me, the Savior.
Was your father the Messiah?
Yeah, he was. We see him as the Messiah, basically returning Jesus, returning Christ.
For people who don't know what the Unification Church or the Sanctuary Church are, how would you describe it? I've heard it described in some reports as a mixture of Christianity, Confucianism. How would you describe it, especially given your academic background at Harvard Divinity School and your expertise in this kind of thing? How would you simply explain what this is?
It's probably different. Depends on what hat I'm wearing. If I'm doing a scholarly work,
don't do a scholarly work. Be a.
But as a reverend,
Reverend Joe.
Yeah, Reverend Sean or Pastor Sean. We see it as the completed testament. The fulfillment of Christ's work, and Christ, when he returns, has three major roles in the Bible, and that is as king, or establishing a kingship, and then as a bridegroom, and then of course as judge, and that's judge of wickedness and the satanic realm. So we see the world, as that which is under Satan's dominion and that which is under God's dominion. And I think for us it's the complete testament age, and it's the fulfillment of the gospel, as Christ defined himself as the gospel of the kingdom. And so that's why we talk a lot about the kingdom and a lot about the future kingdom that is to come. Common misconceptions that most standard Christian doctrine may have about the kingdom that is coming, and things like that. So we have I think a stronger focus on the kingdom.
But do you believe that anybody who isn't a member of your church is going to hell? A member of our church, that's because we don't do like membership, but I think. For us, it's... if somebody doesn't believe your father is the Messiah, are they going to hell?
Well, I think the standard Christian doctrine is that, there's a focus on heaven and there's a focus on hell. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the biblical tradition, it's quite clear in the book of Revelation that God's kingdom of heaven will be on earth. So there are evangelical and both other type of centralized Christian doctrine that say that the heaven would never descend to earth. But most evangelicals, most Christians believe, and even Jesus said to pray that way in Matthew 6. He talked about thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So even he said to look forward to a coming kingdom. So we see that coming kingdom as the fruition of God's intention. It's not, he didn't intend just to create a spiritual world with a heaven and hell.
You think kingdom of God on earth is
on
when
earth
will actually turn into heaven?
Right,
Am I
right.
simplifying that too much? Or?
Yeah, but not in the standard way that we would understand heaven.
In which way?
You know, like everybody's flying around with harps and, you know, everybody's, you know, there's no more evil, there's no more sin, which very standard doctrine will teach that, you know.
Right.
But if you look at Revelation 20, we talked about it in the Sunday service, and verse 7 on, I mean, the Bible talks about the war of Gog and Magog. And that's in the midst of, that's after the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And so Jesus has been on the earth for 1,000 years. His kingdom has reigned and ruled, he's ruled over the earth for 1,000 years. And yet there's still a lot of wicked people that Satan who ascends for the pit, and then he gathers together these people, as many as the sands of the sea. That's what the Bible says. So we know that even from the biblical word, even though Christ is reigning on earth, there will still be evil people who can be gathered together to then wage war on Christ and his city.
Is that why you have such an emphasis in the sanctuary church on arms?
No, I don't think that scripture is the reason. That's just like it's just like even 1,000 years later. You know, my point is, I think I'm trying to make the point that the Bible shows that human will not be taken away. And because God is the same, you know, today, yesterday, and forever, God doesn't want to interact with just robots. Otherwise, he would just have automatrons, you know. He wants to interact with free agents and free peoples who can decide to love him. And that's what we believe God is interested in, is in these relationships of love. And so if we're automatrons, we don't have free will, which many Christian doctrines seem to point to when they talk about the kingdom.
What do you believe in?
Yeah.
What is the sanctuary church? I mean, what do you believe in?
Well, yeah, I mean, we believe.
Free will or not free will?
Oh, free will, of course.
Total free will.
Absolutely,
so
free will is critical.
People are free in your church to
absolutely
live as
critical.
they want to live.
Well, you know, we have the Word of God, so that's that. You know, faith comes by hearing the Word. That's what the Bible says. So obviously, we encourage people to read and study Scripture, etc., to live a moral life, to live a godly life. But again, that responsibility is our responsibility. Nobody can force us to. Even God can't force us to do it.
So what in your definition is a moral life?
Well, number one, you know, recognizing that you're a sinner. You know, you're not perfect, and that you have a corruptibility of man. You have the ability to be corrupted, and sort of if we just rely on ourselves or our own motivations, that those can oftentimes lead to evil and wickedness, or away from God. But coming to Christ, accepting His grace, accepting salvation, becoming a part of His family, understanding His culture, doing good and doing moral things, not for salvation's sake, or to buy salvation, but in the relationship of love, to make your Father in heaven happy, to make Him feel joy. You know?
Your dad used to preach that drugs and alcohol were absolutely forbidden. Extramarital sex was absolutely forbidden. Are those the same principles you teach here in the sanctuary church?
Oh yeah, of course. You know, absolutely forbidden. I mean, you know, he gave, for example, somebody with premarital sex would be fornication. That's obviously a different issue than drinking wine or something, right? But Father would deeply caution people, especially young people, to keep away from different substances that affect your mind, because in those mindsets, then you can be compromised to do the larger sin, which is of course fornication, adultery, or whatever. It can lead to what we see as fallen sexuality.
And do you believe that anybody who engages in adultery has no chance of eternal salvation?
No, I mean, there's repentance. There's a pathway to repentance, obviously, and as long as the person is recognizing that sin and comes to God and is open and honest with that, and of course makes amends to be transformed by the Holy Spirit and change. I think it's not us that do the forgiving; it's God that does the forgiving. So it's not like I don't think it's a Pharisaic or a legalistic view of morality, but it is based on this relationship that you have with God. And I think that's pretty standard in Christian doctrine. So I think we would agree with that, position.
So let's talk about your sermons. And you brought up just a moment ago the blessing ceremony recently, to which you invited several members of the media. You wanted people to see this.
Yeah, I mean, they asked if they can come, so we said, sure, you can come.
You had asked all your members of your congregation to come and to bring with them an assault rifle.
It's a rifle. It's an AR-15. It's a rifle.
Why?
Well, we see it in the biblical context. When Christ established his kingdom.
Assault rifles in the Bible.
Well, there's the rod of iron. So when Christ is ruling in his kingdom, which he defines as the gospel. So the gospel of Jesus Christ is defined by Jesus in Luke 4:43 and Mark and Matthew as the gospel of the kingdom. And then, of course, he preaches that gospel, and then wherever he goes, he creates a tremendous social upheaval in that area. And, of course, enough so that he was imprisoned and, of course, killed. But Christ also is critical in defining his own kingdom. So in the Bible, we see Jesus also defines his own kingdom and how it will look like when he returns. And there's certain accoutrements when he returns. And those accoutrements we can see in Revelation 3 and 11, where he says, let no man take thy crown, speaking to the believers. So we can see that the believers as co-heirs with Christ, that's Romans 8, have crowns. They have crowns of sovereignty. They have crowns of kingship and queenship, of being kings and queens with the King of Kings. So there's the accoutrement of the crowns. And then also we see in Psalm 2, we see it in Revelation 2 and 12 and 19, references to the physical accoutrement of the rod of iron. And we know that the rod of iron is a very powerful item. It's not a symbolic item. So the Bible, for example, says, in Revelation 2 and even Psalm 2 as well. For example, the nations will be given as your inheritance and the ends of the earth for your possession, and you shall rule them with the rod of iron. And
so you're saying that the kingdom of Christ, when Christ returns to the earth, will look like this. Every single believer will be armed with an assault rifle and wearing a crown of some kind, or like your own, a crown of bullets?
Well, it's a decentralized dominion of the use of force. So
what does that mean, decentralized dominion of the use of force?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at, for example...
Sounds like a fancy way of saying something.
Right. I think it has meaning. When we look at, for example, the use of force, we see normally in different governance structures that it's a centralized federal government or body that will monopolize the use of force. So, for example, citizens will not be able to have armament in communist countries, North Korea, for an example. Latin American countries that are more socialist, the population is disarmed. And that, of course, is a very dangerous thing because if the ruling class who can run that army and run all those individuals whom they pay with their state and who only have firearms and have the dominion of force, if they decide to rule in certain ways, exploitative ways, immoral ways, like stealing through taxation people's hard-earned money, confiscating land and property that was owned by people, trafficking people without any due recourse or with impunity.
They're supposed to pick up their assault rifles and...
Well, they're supposed to do what the Founding Fathers do and fight off the British. But the Founding Fathers would never have that ability unless they had the modern-day assault rifle, the musket at that time.
Oh, my goodness. How do you
they would never be able to stand and have a physical reactionary force.
I think in this country, though, in this day and age, we vote people out of office if we don't agree with them. We don't go pick up our assault rifles.
No, of course, nobody's calling for picking up assault rifles in America. But in America, for example...
Other parts of the world, or...?
No, as a last resort.
a last resort to, I guess I'm trying, what is the resort when you and your followers will pick up your assault rifles and use them?
Well, no, I think it's a general, it's a larger picture of the world where people have access, just like kings and queens and monarchs and elites have access to means of protection for themselves.
So you're not saying use the rifles, you're
Sure,
just
of course
saying
not.
have the rifles?
Well, I mean, I have them as a last-ditch insurance, just like the Founding Fathers encountered when British was trying to rule over them, give them incredibly oppressive tax structures, tariffs, you name it. And so when a government goes awry, like in China with Mao Zedong, et cetera, he's the one who said all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And so socialist communists know very well the necessity for their system to control firearms and control weapons.
You're probably the only pastor who incorporates firearms into your sermons.
You should look up Chuck Baldwin.
Or firearms into your Sunday services. Going so far as to bring your assault weapon in so that I'll bless it. Is that what that was?
No, I mean we didn't bless those items because we see them just as accoutrements.
But why did you want everybody to bring one and show it the way they did?
You know, because it's a sign of our sovereignty. You know, when it's a sign of our position. You know, we're not just slaves and serfs of mighty empires and kingdoms. We are.
Who thinks you're slaves and serfs?
Well, metaphorically speaking, right? The people of this earth are not slaves and serfs to a ruling class or a political elite. The people of this earth are, you know, made in the image of God. So they have sovereignty. They have the right to defend themselves. They have the right to territory. They have the right to not be ruled by bureaucrats and politicians. You know, so I think it's a larger message and a larger picture that this was sort of emblematic of or representative of.
You sound more like a revolutionary than a pastor.
Well, I mean, Jesus, that's what they said about Jesus. I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but they said that about Christ wherever he went, that he was preaching a kingdom that would supplant the existing kingdoms of the earth. I think that's what my father always did.
Today at your Sunday service, you were showing videos. These were security camera videos. These were not Hollywood movies.
No, yeah.
Of people being attacked, stabbed in their own homes by intruders, by criminals. There were children in this audience. Why are you showing films like that, footage like that at a Sunday prayer service?
Well, to be fair, as you saw, I did tell the parents it's going to be some graphic scenes. So if you should know that I'm going to show this video. I told them in advance. I think you saw that.
We did, but we also heard one parent tell a child who wanted to turn away that he needed to watch.
Yeah, I mean that's their choice.
But why show a violent thing like that? It's
it's critical for education. I mean, it's critical for if you're.
What are you teaching?
Well, if you're into self-defense, if you've been a martial artist, or if you've ever studied about the use of force, it's an absolutely critical thing to study and to understand. Excuse me, sorry about that.
That's okay.
To have knowledge of, because a lack of knowledge then can lead to fear. And so understanding those things and understanding the threats that people encounter arms you with a more proper strategy to.
Are you making them feel more afraid by showing them?
No, I think nobody lives in fear. I mean, the Bible says God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. So I think people with sound minds who, you have car insurance, you have house insurance, you have fire insurance, and so you should definitely have insurance for your life and your protection and for your family. It's absolutely critical. And so. And
part of that insurance policy, you think
is you
arming yourself.
Absolutely,
absolutely,
is you absolutely, because you're royalty. You're not just a serf. You're not a slave. You're not somebody under a system. You are royalty. You have a kingly line, and so you have to protect yourself and you have to protect your children, because these are not just another casualty. These, in the eyes of God, these are. Princes, princesses, these are kings and queens. So these are very precious individuals.
Does every member of your congregation know how to fire a gun?
I believe so.
Does every member of your congregation own a gun?
If they can legally, I mean, you know, our congregation.
Because if there's a criminal in here, he can't own a gun.
Yeah, I mean, that's he would be doing that illegally, and we don't recommend that.
Does every member of your congregation know martial arts?
They train. Not everybody. I won't say everybody, but
what percentage trains?
A lot of the young people, you know, they train with me, and then I train them Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in different striking arts, etc. I've been on life, like Muay Thai and mixed martial arts you've probably seen. So I practiced martial arts since I was in my teens.
Where did you learn?
I learned JKD. I learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Kali Eskrima is a Filipino style of martial art. So I've been a lifelong practitioner of martial arts, and see how it, of course, transforms people's lives.
And why is that important for everybody to know how to do that?
Well, I mean, because God said, love God and love your neighbor. And if you love your neighbor, the Bible describes, Jesus himself describes the greatest type of love, and that is being able to lay your life down for your friends, or lay your life down for other people. In that context, he said friends. So we know that the greatest type of love is that kind of sacrificial love that is exemplified in self-defenders, people who will put themselves at harm's way to defend other people's lives.
Here's what the concern may be. You're arming and training your followers in what many would consider to be acts of violence, shooting somebody, you know, being able to fight somebody. The concern is that, you know, what happens when one of these people who maybe isn't mentally balanced or thinking clearly for whatever reason, or goes out and does something terrible, illegal, tragic, because you've taught them and armed them and maybe said, they're the enemy, we don't like them for this, and they go out and do something you can't take back or make better in any way. Do you see the concern?
Yeah, I mean, as an instructor of any martial art, right, you have the potential for some people to potentially use it in a bad way. But of course, that's where instruction comes in. Even if you teach somebody how to drive a car, there's no guarantee that person won't do like the Islamists did in Nice, France, where they ran over 88 people and injured 100.
But you can't equate teaching someone to drive a car with teaching someone
that is
to
a
fire
weapon.
an assault
I mean, if you know anything about defensive, car tactics, it's about learning how to use your car as a weapon.
You see them both as exactly equal.
Different types of martial arts, different types of arts of defense. So
and owning assault rifles. And assault
well, they're called assault rifles by the media, but they're just rifles. I mean, they're not fully automatic like many people say. The AR-15s don't necessarily have a high capacity. There's other magazines that have way more high capacity than that. The penetrating power is nowhere near 308, 300 Winchester mag. I mean, so you have a lot of different calibers, but I think those generalized terminology I think it's used just too generically, whereas people that study the arts of defense, like to categorize and understand things more clearly.
You chose to have this blessing ceremony where all of your followers were encouraged to bring an assault rifle with them just 2 weeks after the shootings at Parkland High School in Florida, a tragedy that really rocked this nation and continues to, politically, as well as the enormous, incomprehensible loss of life that day.
Yeah.
Why did you go ahead with your plans for that ceremony? Didn't you know what you were inviting by holding that ceremony, inviting the media in for the ceremony, when we were still burying the kids who were killed by a crazy person with an assault weapon? Yeah,
I think that's a really important statement you just made. A crazy person. And we see this pattern, throughout all the
You don't know that
shootings.
All of your followers, that somebody in here might not be crazy.
Well, I mean, in these particular cases, especially Parkland, you had, and I'm just answering your question kind of in a roundabout way. We see a lot more failure. We see the left and the mainstream media trying to push this narrative that the gun owners are somehow responsible for this, or the NRA is somehow responsible for this. when it is a crazy person on psychotropics, and Joe Rogan was talking about with Calo Noir the other day on his podcast, these are questions that the liberal media is not asking. You know, why are all these gun shootings related with pharmacological drugs, the mind-altering drugs? Why do they have the big pharmaceutical companies that fund their advertising, you know, have kids that are on these drugs or people that are on these drugs, and then affect these mass shootings, and then nobody makes a question about that.
Second Amendment
Okay, pause that one second. Pause that one
asking
second.
about
Pause one
the
second. Boys, pause one second.
of
Pause,
what
boys.
message.
Now, you guys notice when as soon as I bring up pharmacologicals, they will change the subject because in their contracts with media and big company media, they have contracts with pharmaceutical companies during the advertisements. If they don't like any of the content that brings up pharmacological drugs in a bad way, those companies can decide to tell CNN or mainstream media not to air that stuff. So you can see as soon as a leftist try to say it's anti-gun, and as soon as you bring up pharmacological drugs, they literally have to jump on a different topic because they have contracts that don't allow them to talk about it. They're covering up for these companies. So it's such a racket. It's such a ridiculous North Korean racket. But you can see as soon as I brought that up, and remember, this happened fast. I mean, you know, she's like, you can see where the questions is just, she's trying to throw me off. She's trying to ask all these questions like nonstop. And thank God the Holy Ghost just give me the things to say. It looks very natural. It looks very, you know, but actually if you're on the spot like that and stuff like that, it's quite mind-racking what the heck you're going to say. And you know, everything you say will be used against you. Okay, you know, everything you say is going to be used against you. But you did notice that with the pharmacological. As soon as that comes up, boom, she has to change the subject. She cannot talk about it. Ridiculous. Well, you know, it gets better as we go. Go ahead, boys. Turn it on.
Were you sending, having that ceremony?
I mean, we planned that 6 months before, you know.
I know, but you didn't have to still do it that day, and you certainly didn't have to invite the press in to record you doing it and show you doing it, given what was going on in the country.
I mean, it was a religious holiday for us. So it's a specific day. It's not a day that we pick out of a hat. Mm-hmm. It was a day that, you know, our Father designated as a special day for
right, but
for
he
blessing.
Didn't designate assault rifles needed to be present, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, he officiated these blessings in larger mass weddings. When we had the 228 event or the February 28 event, it was planned much 6 months earlier, 5 to 6 months earlier, and of course it was around the Parkland situation. But also, interestingly enough, just I think a couple of days before that, there was another one in Maryland where a good person with a firearm stopped another school shooting. So I think the point is people were sensitive, people were worked up because it is a tragic situation where the kids were disarmed, they were unarmed, the teachers were unarmed.
Were you aware of the message that you were sending, whether you intended to or not?
I think that it can be interpreted. You know, there's some people who, on the left that will see it as a grave insult. There's some people on the right that will say, hey, you know, that's important because we want our teachers maybe not to have ARs in the school, but if they have concealed carry weapons, to have particular training that they go through, and then have more states are doing it and allowing the teachers to be able to arm just in case you have some crazy person try to come in.
Your father, with the Unification Church, had pretty strict rules on, you know, people having to forsake all of their normal lives and devote themselves completely to the Unification Church, sell all their worldly possessions, that sort of thing. Do you have similar rules for the Sanctuary Church?
No. Father, I mean, for our church, it was. I think that's a misunderstanding. Father always encouraged for people to have businesses, to own private property, to have sovereignty to do
a lot of that money
outdoor
raised,
sports.
However, all went into excuse me. A lot of that money raised went into the Unification Church, though.
Sure, or related organizations like the Washington Times, or newspapers, or different what we call providential activities. But people were never told that to be monks or monastics. They were not living on monastic compounds. My father decentralized the entire church. It was he made it like a federation of families for people to establish what he called blessed central families. So he really pushed the community to become self-reliant, to to become sovereigns, to have businesses and private property, etc.
You grew up in Tarrytown, New York, in what is, by all accounts, lovely conditions as the children of Reverend Moon. You were seen as perfect children. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I don't know if we were seen as perfect children.
Do you remember being treated? We've talked to other kids who were growing up in Tarrytown inside the Unification Church around the same time, and they said, you know, the Moon kids were elevated, special, were treated differently than everybody else. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a, you know, it was in our community that we were seen as the true family. But I think and people have said even afterwards that they had, you know, wrong expectations about, basically us being free agents. We weren't robots. We're not automatrons. You can't be programmed to act a certain way. So just like any other kid, that kid has to make a decision as a free agent to believe or not believe, and it's really dependent on that person. Nobody can force it, on them.
Was it hard to grow up with that expectation around you?
I mean, I was the youngest, so I kind of stayed out of the camera and the limelight, and I skateboarded, and I would go to the dojo and practice martial arts. So that's how I was able to stay away from the sort of public engagements all the time, because I was of the younger group. I was the kids.
What happened with your older brothers and sisters, some of whom have had very well-documented run-ins with your father's teachings? I mean, drugs and alcohol are satanic. You had an older brother who was a notorious drug user. Extramarital sex is evil. You had a sister who had a child out of wedlock.
Yeah.
And your father, you have a stepbrother. Your father had an extramarital affair. How do you square the personal behavior of you and your family with your father's own teachings to his congregation?
Yeah, I think we have to divide just mentally. Father as a Messiah, and then the children, not as a group but as individuals. So it's quite a common thing to try to lump everybody in the family. If I said, your family and you have this or that with your, brother and sister or whatever, but but you're all different individuals. So I think my father's perspective, like any other parent, would be that each one of his children are going through different difficulties that they're going through. None of them are, quote, perfect in the way that we may see in a common religious setting, or we may think these are perfect beings. None of us ever believed that we were perfect beings.
You didn't grow up thinking you were perfect or special.
No, of course. Well, I mean, I think everybody in even the Christian world believes they're special, right? I mean, you're a child of God, so you should feel like you're special in some way. But I don't think any of us believe that we're perfect. And so each one of the, my siblings have to go their own course. They have to go fight their own demons, because everybody's an individual. So I never lump our whole family together, because we're all different individuals, and we all have different interests. We all have different, hobbies. We all have different passions, etc. And we all have our own course. And in terms of our father, our father came as the Messiah. So we see him as fulfilling, the bridegroom position, which is that he stands as the Adam representative to all women of the earth, of the world, who will accept him.
I know your father must have hated this. I never got the chance to interview him personally, so I'm assuming. But you know that many people consider the Unification Church to be a cult. Do you think people, and I can tell you that people consider the Sanctuary Church to be a cult. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, what's your definition of a cult? Because the left could be seen as a cult, that is not able to cognitively.
Do you think it's a pejorative term?
I think it's become so relativized in the modern day. I mean, some people with different political opinions will call each other cults. So in terms of, we're literally the most successful new religion while the time the founder was alive, that had incredible spread and reach. There was a couple scholars that wrote on this. That most founders of world religions are tremendously ostracized. They're either killed or many times, exiled from society. But Reverend Moon, as the founder of a new religious movement, spreading to that level of growth is pretty unseen in the new religious movements of the 20th century. So scholars certainly don't see us as some kind of cult. They see us as very serious in our theology, with very
Which
key.
scholars?
Even my world religion professor at Harvard, he did a whole study on us. They invited me to give a representative prayer at the graduation. So these are world level scholars that take our movement very seriously. So.
And yet the Southern Poverty Law Center not only calls you a cult, they accused the Unification Church, certainly, and in many cases the Sanctuary Church, of being racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I mean, you just see our congregation. We're filled with minorities. The Southern Poverty Law Center is very notorious. I mean, Prager has done a video on that. Fox News have done it. Conservatives have exposed their funding from various very revolutionary type, people like Soros, etc. And they have President Trump on the hate watch list. They have Sean Hannity, Judge Jeanine Pirro. I mean, they have almost every conservatives on the list. So I'm actually in pretty good company. There are some crazy people on there as well, of course, but I understand that's politically done on purpose. But there's a lot of conservatives that they put on that list as well. Ann Coulter, Milo Yiannopoulos. I mean,
But do you think homosexuality is a sin?
The Bible is very clear. It's not only sin, it's an abomination before God. So God sees it as something that's very painful to his heart and something that he dissuades his children to do.
And you don't think saying homosexuality is an abomination sounds homophobic?
Well, so the Bible says. It's not what I say. In the end, we don't subordinate our views are not above God's, right? So if God is the creator of the universe, if they're real, rational, reasons for his existence. You can look at the fine-tuning argument. You can look at the various arguments given by major thinkers like Plantinga or William Lane Craig.
Ontological argument.
Huge scholars out from Notre Dame, etc. There's a strong case for a theistic worldview. Even when we look at through science, when we look at the constant conditions of the universe, when we look at the double-slit experiment and how observation affects reality. Some major physicists like Michio Kaku out of CUNY,
What does all
New
that
York.
have to do with homosexuality as an abomination?
Well, I mean, if you believe there's a intelligent being that created the universe, okay, his views are above our views. He has more authoritative
The Bible
position.
was written by human beings. God didn't write
Well,
it.
we don't believe it was written by human beings only, that it was revealed to them by God, by the intelligent designer of
Human beings are fallible.
the world. Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different versions of the Bible, actually.
Well,
that,
translations.
No, there are
Actually,
also discarded versions of the Bible.
well, you're talking about the Apocrypha texts.
I'm talking about the Gnostic Bibles. There are all sorts of the Gospels. I mean, there are all
That's
sorts
the
of
Apocrypha.
different...
The Gnostics would be the Apocrypha. And so that would be the non-canonical texts. And those are coming out of communities that were not even related to the Jesus communities of the early scholarly period. So,
Well, I would love to debate this with you, but I don't want to use up our time because I want to talk about your church and not, not the ancient
yeah,
Gnostic
I think
Gospels,
we're pretty standard with Christianity, that the Bible has supremacy over our societies.
Most Christians don't believe that homosexuality is an abomination.
If they believe the Bible, they do. Of course they do. I mean, even the Catholic
So you
Church.
believe in a completely literal interpretation
No,
of the
no,
Bible?
not literal. For example, even Jesus himself says he used symbols and metaphors, but not when he's talking about certain behaviors.
There's another quote on your website that says, "Mother must also have absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience." There's a lot of talk about women having absolute obedience to men. Is this a completely patriarchal setup here? I mean, men
He's a
call the shots and women
misogynist.
follow orders?
No, I think that's in reference to my father's designation of her as a true mother and of her as her mission when she first married him. And he told her that, it's going to be a hard course. There's going to be many women who are jealous of you, but you're the Eve. So the Eve has to be, as the Bible says in Ephesians 5, the husband will love the wife unconditionally. The wife will respect her husband unconditionally. So the Bible is very clear in establishing the order of human interaction, but there are various roles. And so, for example, in our church, the women are very dangerous. They're training with me in martial arts. They're training with me in self-defense. My wife, who I refer to as Queen, is a very strong woman. They're not weak women.
But they're supposed to follow instructions from the men?
They're supposed to respect their husband, as the Bible says.
Does it
just
say
like
the husband has to respect the wife too?
Well, it says to love the wife unconditionally. The Ephesians 5 talks about it very clearly. The husband should love and be patient, be as Christ is to the church, to his wife, be ready to sacrifice and die for her. The Bible says in 1 Timothy that a man who does not provide for his family is worse than a heathen. So it puts a lot of responsibility on males to act properly and to take care of their wife, etc., and to love her and to be patient and to have this agape love towards her.
Do you have any relationship with other members of your family? Any of your brothers or sisters or your mother, biological mother?
Just to finish up the last bit real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It commands the men to have this agape love, but also it commands the wife, to have unconditional respect for the husband. So I think
respect doesn't do what he says to do.
No, I think just not, disrespecting him in ways that, if a woman may feel unloved, she may feel that as great injury to her heart. And in the same way as a man, if he's disrespected, he will find that as great injury to his heart. And God knows that because he created man and woman. And so he gave us that form of love and respect to have that synergy in marriage. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to make that point before we move to the next question. Your next question, can you give a synopsis real quick?
Yes. Do you have any relationship now, today, with any of your brothers or sisters or your biological mother?
After my father passed, I would continue to go visit her every year. And I would go on the anniversary of my father's passing, I would go to there's a big palace in Korea. And I would go to the palace and, greet her and greet my father's site. But, she made it very abundantly clear that I wasn't welcome there. And, if I didn't follow her theology. And so I went.
Why do you think there was such a struggle after your father's death for control? And we saw the family completely sort of splinter into factions. What happened?
Well, I think it's not only theological. Obviously, there's a lot of resources and billions of dollars.
Money.
A lot of money people are interested in. And what we showed is, no, we're not interested in that. We're interested in being honest and faithful to our Father and our beliefs. So,
are you the true follower of your father and therefore true successor? True successor of the Unification Church? That's what Father determined me as. So I did not do that. I did not choose myself. He decided that I would be his successor. How do you communicate with your dad now?
Through Scripture, I think through prayer.
You say you run this church, you lead this church by following his instructions. How do you get those instructions?
Well, I think it's like how any Christian would interact with the Holy Spirit, through revelation, through time and study in the Scripture, through the prompting of the still small voice in our hearts, and dreams and visions, And so we, I think Christians, or evangelicals especially, have a very good understanding of a direct relationship with God. And for us, that's not a strange thing, that Father can come and give us direction.
So you have revelations or visions from your Father even now?
Sure, it comes in dreams and visions, or he will give me inspiration, and I'll always confirm that with Scripture, because that's important, because to combat potentially a different spirit or a different entity trying to give revelation, which the Bible warns about. Confirming insight and inspiration with Scripture is a very important thing.
I noticed on the altar you now have a picture of your father with a different woman, not your mother. Who is this woman?
Well, that's his first disciple. She's the Kong True Mother. She's the first disciple of my father in South Korea. And she joined when she was in her early 20s. She's now 92. And she's been a faithful follower with my father, actually even before my mother was blessed to him. And during that time, after he passed, and the church was being split, and they were taking assets, and this or that, how it was happening, and she was the only one amongst that whole upper leadership and the faithful believers from the early days, so to speak, that stood up for me and said, no, I can't, I'm not going to betray Father. He clearly appointed a successor, and I will support him. So.
And she's now spiritually married to your father?
Yeah, so we see her as, because the Han mother, in her own actions, divorced herself from my father, even doing a spiritual ceremony where she married another god behind my father's back when he was in a different part of Korea. This is when he was still alive. There was a... anyway, so because of that spiritual divorcing and separating with him, then as the only representative from the early church, from the early discipleship, to stand up for Father's, kingship that he designated, then she was elevated as the position of the sort of holy mother or the true mother. Yeah.
So she's now the true mother, after your mother was the true mother for a long time.
A long time, yeah. And then in the...
And how did you know? And did you receive some sort of vision that that's what should happen from your father? That this posthumous marriage, spiritual marriage, should happen?
I think it was very clear in prayer and in meditation, the direction that Father, because we believe that God is a living God, so He doesn't just expire after a physical body expires. And we believe that the Messiah is the substance of God on earth, so really God's presence is within Him, and so He continues on and so she was elevated to that position. I think it was abundantly clear from my perspective as the heir and successor, given the circumstances that happened with my physical mother and her turning away.
Given the fact that there was such a battle for the pretty substantial assets of the Unification Church, and you said you didn't go out, you didn't fight for that. You weren't part of the scrabble for money.
No,
the scramble for money. How does this church fund itself, support itself? Where does the money come from?
Well, from our followers around the world, these are many brothers and sisters who were former members of the Family Fed, who had seen the ceremonies that my father had conducted, and knew that I was his successor. And so, it's not obviously as big as we were in terms of our world movement, but there are many people who have come over from their ranks, and another group we call the Quack group, which my other brother runs, and they took about a couple $1 billion worth of assets from my father when he was alive. So there are these different groups in the wake of all that. And so people have left those groups and heard what we've said on the internet, heard the sermons, heard the different content. And
do people tithe? Do they give donations?
Yeah, I mean, people will. Our ministry is very decentralized, so we have a headquarters here, but it's not like all people tithe to here. We have local ministries, which are sanctuary churches in Japan, Korea, which people tithe to directly, and then those churches, if they can, will send a tithe here of,
and what's
of
the
their
tithe,
10%.
what percentage of their income?
Well, the standard 10% tithe to their ministry, but then that ministry will send a 10% of the 10% here.
So people get to
They can choose where they want to tithe.
And do people?
And donate.
Your father was infamous for marrying these mass weddings where he would choose spouses. I mean, often marrying couples who weren't even from the same country or spoke the same language.
Right.
Do you believe in picking people's life partners, their spouses, or are you now letting people marry who they want to marry?
Yeah, I mean, Father did that because we believe he has a very special position as a Messiah. But I don't do that kind of matching.
You don't claim to have that.
No,
magic,
I don't do that kind of matching.
Oh, matching.
Yeah.
I thought you said magic.
No, I don't do that kind of matching. We trust in the Holy Spirit. We trust in Father from heaven guiding folks to work through that process of the blessing, and then decide to move as husband and wife. So,
do you have any relationship with any of your siblings?
Yeah, I mean, Justin is here.
Justin's right here. Justin actually owns a big gun manufacturing facility. Do many of your followers who are directed by you to buy assault weapons go to Justin and purchase those guns there?
They could have purchased them. I don't know where they purchased them. They could have purchased them anywhere.
Do you see any of the profits from that? From Justin's business?
No.
His business is completely separate.
Separate thing. I mean, he will from different nonprofit organizations. He'll donate to the church, but those are things that he's been donating to the Unification Church, and he just switched that over to Sanctuary. Once he found that they were not in line with my father's.
Is Justin the only sibling with whom you're in close contact and who's a supporter of yours?
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Is that at all sad that you don't have a relationship with your mom or the rest of your siblings?
I see them as adults, so I see them as.
You don't miss that presence in your life? Or was your mom around very much when you were growing up anyway?
Not that much. I mean, not that much. We were mostly raised with nannies and stuff like that. But that, for me, I was always close to my mom. I was always close to when they were there, I was the youngest of the family, so, but for me, it's, these are adults and they're choosing to walk a certain path, and it's a path that I can't walk with them on. So it's a path that obviously it's painful on a sort of individual level that they chose such a way, but again, I can't determine their future for them. They have to decide that.
So do you have any idea, I know I asked you this before, but do you have any sort of ballpark figure or estimation as to how many followers the Sanctuary Church has and where they all are?
We have, in Japan, we have 100 or so, 100 sanctuaries in terms of sanctuary churches.
130 now.
130.
They call themselves lifeboats, yes.
Lifeboats, sanctuary churches there. In Korea, we have probably.
That's only within one organization, and
there are a couple organizations. We don't control the finances of these different ministries. We operate much more like an assembly of, Protestant churches that work together. And the real thing that holds together is faith. Faith in Reverend Moon as the Lord of Second Advent, and Hyungjin Moon as his heir and successor, and Shinjin Moon as his heir and successor. And so we're really held together by faith. These ministries operate separately, so they're not controlled by us. They're not run by us.
So what's the answer? I'm still wondering what the answer to my question is. Like, how many
people? I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's in the thousands. I mean, we don't know exactly. I mean, we don't take like a registry of people, because
I would add another zero to that, but.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's. But there's a lot of people that were part of the Unification Church or the Family Fed that are, for example, secretly supporting us, or they're too scared to come out in their community, so to speak, because of the ostracism they may face. But by their community, because we're seen as heretics, so.
You're seen as heretics by whom?
By Family Fed, by the Kwak Group, etc. But I think our position is the strongest. I mean, scholars have had all three parties come to Europe to debate, and this was one of the professors was from the London School of Economics, very high-level scholars, and they had us all debate and show our positions.
Is that weird, debating with your mom?
No, I mean, I didn't do the debate. Yeah, like Richard Panzer went on our behalf, and they had other representatives from their groups. But even the scholarly consensus was, it's pretty clear that the sanctuary is Reverend Moon's successor.
You are very much a modern pastor. You go online with your King's Report. What is it, weekly?
Daily.
Daily?
Yeah, daily.
You have a daily King's Report posted online.
Yeah, 6 days a week.
Why are you doing that? You hoping to recruit more followers?
I think it's more for our community and just and commenting on political issues. My father was not only just a religious pastor; he was a huge opponent of communism because he obviously fled from the North. So throughout the world, he organized VOC, or Victory Over Communism, rallies and movements from Russia to China to North-South Korea to Japan and in America. So the political activism aspect of my father's ministry has always been a key aspect. Washington Times, for example, Tiempos del Mundo in Latin America, Segielbo in Korea. So newspapers and understanding these are things that are dominated by the leftist narrative or the more left-leaning narratives. So having conservative voice, alternative voices are very important. And for us, it's, you know, we're a pretty small channel. I mean, I don't want to boast. I don't boast about numbers or anything. But
why do it?
Why?
You know,
it's
you open
like a
yourself
spiritual.
up for a certain amount. You're sitting there with your crown of bullets and your assault rifle, and you're preaching.
Well, it's good to be honest. You know, it's good to be honest. It's good to be upfront with what we believe. I mean, I think this is the internet age. I mean, nobody appreciates that people are, you know, trying to, you know, scurry around about what they believe or not, and it's better to just put it out. And like-minded people can, you know, tune in or not. You know, so.
So why wear a crown of bullets? What's that supposed to?
Well, it was one of the congregants, Mr. Tashiro, made it for me.
Okay.
But the crown again symbolized that's one of the accoutrements of the coming kingdom in Revelation 3. Yeah,
okay.
So.
I'm curious, going back to, you know, this fractionalization of the family, and when you were growing up, were you particularly close to any brothers or sisters? Was Justin the one you were closest to, the one who you now remain close to, or?
I mean, I used to go train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with him and Preston, so I think we were very close. One of my brothers who passed away, I was very close with him. He was also very close with him. You know, I was close with one of my sisters, very close with her when I was a skater. You know, very close with her. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I didn't have a lot of friction with any of my brothers and sisters.
How would you?
You know?
You were the baby of the family. How would you describe
baby
yourself?
boy of the family?
Baby
yeah.
boy of the family.
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself as a child, as a boy growing up? Were you shy? Were you athletic? Were you popular? Were you isolated?
I think I was a prankster a little bit. So, you know, I gave my 8th grade math teacher, you know, a lot of trouble.
Why?
You know, you fool around in class and do jokes and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I got a lot of, you know, detentions because of it, and a lot of after school hours. But I reformed my ways. After 9th grade. And I started training martial arts, and I got more disciplined.
Sometimes children who are raised in an environment of extreme wealth or extreme privilege can be a little obnoxious, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that could be true of you?
You know, we were, you know, grinding it out and wrestling with guys, you know, from all walks of life, you know. So we were wrestling with them, training with them. My father was doing basic commercial fishing. I mean, he was not into luxury, you know, things.
Were there a lot of guns around?
Oh, he was a shooter. He would hunt every year in Jeju-do Island in Korea.
So you were raised around guns?
Oh yeah, he would go boar hunting. He would go pheasant hunting.
And were
every year.
you all taught as children to fire guns?
Yeah, yeah. We were all brought into the shooting sports early on. We were all, you know, encouraged to practice martial arts and do things, you know, to be able to defend ourselves, etc.
So, excuse me, this emphasis on defending yourself isn't something you came up with. It's something your father also had.
Oh yeah, I mean, he owned one of the first firearms air gun businesses in South Korea after he fled from the North, and this was in the 50s or 50s. I'm sorry, 50s, in the 50s. It was one of the first in the nation. He eventually went on to work with the South Korean government to, you know, build them the Vulcan cannon, M1 carbine, you know, so to help their military prepare against the North. So.
You know, this was, I'm sure, a long time ago, but at one time there was, you know, there were polls at a certain time during the time that your father was alive that showed the Unification Church, so the Moonies, had a terrible, terrible public image. We said it's a cult, they're all brainwashed, and yet after your father's death, because there was so much money involved in this church, or maybe for other reasons, there was this huge struggle for the mantle that your father left. I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, why fight so hard for this mantle if so many people do look at it as a cult or in some sort of negative way?
Well, I'm not fighting. I'm not suing my mom. I'm not suing my brothers. You know, they're the ones who do legal stuff on me. I mean, I'm not initiating any of the legal, so I'm not fighting them. I'm just speaking the truth and accepting the inheritance Father gave me as his heir and successor. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not going after them legally. I'm not trying to take the assets that they've taken from, you know, the legitimate inheritance. You know, it's because us, we didn't want to go along with that type of what we see as a real heresy. And he even said in one of his handwritten sort of declarations, where he declared me as his heir and successor, and then he said anybody who claims otherwise would be a destroyer and a heretic. So that's his words. Those are not my words. And so, you know, for us, it's about being honest and honorable and doing the right thing, and standing for what we believe. So that's why we, you know, preach, and that's why we do the King's Reporter ministry.
You certainly make no efforts, given your online presence, to hide any of your messages. Or your philosophies. So how do you respond to people who say the sanctuary church is a cult, and a dangerous cult, with its arming people, with its peace police, training everybody to not only, you know, fight, but to use a weapon to fight, by even showing these videos, you know, during your Sunday service?
How do I respond to them?
How do you respond to people who say your church is a dangerous cult?
I mean, I would say, you know, in reality, I think the alternative media has been very sort of getting under the skin of the left, because the alternative media calls the many leftist movements as dangerous cults. You know, so again, my point is that we can see certain, you know, just groups or different groups and label this and that, but the same can be done on the other side. You know, for us, for example,
but I mean, you clearly don't think you're
no, of course not.
A cult, or you don't think you're dangerous?
No, of course not. We're law-abiding citizens. We are you know, encouraging people to exercise their God-given rights that we see as natural rights given to them by God, that are protected by the Constitution. Oh, protected by the Constitution as well of the United States. God bless the USA. And so, you know, we don't only believe that that's for Americans. So we believe all peoples of the world have the right of self-defense and sovereignty, and so that they, by bureaucrats, officials, and governments that exploit them and use different sort of you know, tropes or explanatory tropes to say that they're redistributing wealth to, you know, equalize or create more egalitarianism. But meanwhile, using the coercion of the state to forcefully take people's resources, that would be considered theft in a biblical standpoint. So our position is that obviously we're law-abiding, we're exercising our freedom, you know, to bear arms, etc., and to practice whether it be martial arts, you know, with our community. But we hope that the world too would have that freedom, that they would not have these oppressive, draconian laws that restrict them from defending themselves or their families.
So every member of your congregation who owns a gun has a gun?
If it's required legally, sure, absolutely. Like a CCW, if they're carrying a gun, absolutely, they have to.
And does every member of this congregation have training? Like, do they all know how to fire that gun safely?
Oh yeah.
Do you provide that training? Do you check to make sure everybody has a permit?
No. Community organized, self-organized, and they have very qualified instructors that have classes. We have an internet sort of online university curriculum where people can teach classes and then go to the range and practice. And so there's a couple of our congregation brothers and sisters that are NRA certified. They're instructors, and
How often
they
do you
train.
want them to practice?
It depends on the art. It depends on the art. If they're training with us, then they train different empty hands martial arts, and they'll train Filipino martial arts, and then on their own time they'll go train at the range, martial arts, etc. So
But is this like a
different.
weekly thing? I mean, what do you, as the leader of the church, tell them they should be doing?
Oh, I mean, as much as required. As
Like once a year?
I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, more often is better to
What's
keep
ideal?
these. I think a regular dose of training, a practice
Like
a
once
regimen.
a week?
Maybe once a week, or twice a week, once a week, once every other week, so that you make sure these are perishable skills and that they're constantly sharpened and they're good to go, so to speak. So I think it's just for the prepared citizen and having a self-defense mindset and sort of a refusal to be your life and your destiny to be thrown around at the whims of somebody with violent intent, to refuse that.
So according to your teachings, what happens next? Do you just grow old and continue to channel your dad's teachings to your followers, and then your son will take over on your death? What happens? Or is there some sort of, I mean, many religious groups believe in, a day of reckoning happen on earth. Do you believe that's going to happen? What's...
Yeah, I mean, we don't believe like there's going to be some rapture, but it's going to evaporate and things like that. I think that's very unbiblical. That's called the pre-trib heresy that exists in many Christian doctrines, but that is to disprove in the Bible. So we don't believe that kind of thing will happen in that kind of dramatic way, but we believe there's a whole new system, a whole new culture, there's a whole new civilization that will come, and that will be markedly different from the cyclical, repeated that humankind has experienced since the fall of Adam and Eve, which is essentially in a political sort of, in terms of political systems, it's been centralized political systems. So oligarchies, centralized monarchies, centralized socialist forms of government, communist forms of government. Those are more modern, I think, names for them, but feudalistic societies, whatever they're called, very centralized forms of power and force. We see that as a cyclical, repeating pattern over history, which doesn't lead to more human flourishing. It leads to oppression, exploitation, etc. And so we see the kingdom of God coming, overriding that with a new sort of system, a new culture, and a new constitution, a new sort of law for the world.
But so when do your followers believe that's going to happen?
I don't think anybody says a particular date. We believe that it will happen, and we pray that it will happen, just like Jesus said to do in Matthew 6. Pray it every day. So thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And it's up to God. For us, it's up to God, and we just want to do our best to preach the gospel and proclaim His kingdom. That's all.
And for people who grew up in the Unification Church, who call themselves former Moonies, and say, the church did exactly what you're saying those governments do. They took everything from us and broke apart families, and we lived lives of poverty, looking to raise money just for the church, and to be able to create this immense, empire and this really luxurious lifestyle that the Reverend Moon and his family grew up, lived in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a massive difference.
And you, that your father, Reverend Moon, and all of your brothers and sisters and mother lived in.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a huge difference between coercion of government and when people, for example, in the church, they gave to the church or to the providential activity of Father. But for example, if you don't pay your taxes to the IRS, people with guns will come to arrest you. That is a critical difference, and that is a difference between a donation that's done to any church and the use of force, which
but
is.
Critics have always said that the Unification Church brainwashed its followers, and you are claiming to be the successor and the rightful.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think conservatives say.
Are you brainwashing people to be members of the Sanctuary Church?
No, I think we offer the opposite sides, and conservatives say that teachers are brainwashing their kids in the schools. I'll say that many times too.
Do you believe that?
It depends on exactly how you formulate. Obviously, I'm using that very loosely, but indoctrinating them in different types of cultural norms and cultural patterns that social psychologists or.
So you don't see brainwashing as a bad thing?
No, I don't think. No, I don't. It depends on how you define brainwashing. I think that usually how they see brainwashing is some kind of forced indoctrination. Starvation.
It means hijacking somebody's ability to do critical thinking.
Sure.
To think that, wait a second, I shouldn't be handing over all of my life's possessions and resources and renouncing my own mother and father to follow somebody to whom I've given all my.
CNN's doing that. I would say, a lot of the public schools are teaching kids to see the Bible as mythology.
How is CNN doing that?
I think, with tremendous propaganda, tremendous funding from various people like George Soros, the Clinton crime syndicate, and the rapes of Bill Clinton, or predicting that 99% of the votes will go to Hillary Clinton. She has a 90% assuredness to become the next president, or to giving the DNC questions to Hillary in advance. I mean, but doing these all behind the scenes, and even Donna Brazile coming out saying that there was grave corruption, and now turning her back on Hillary. These things are not reported in the media, but the media, as we know from my father very clearly in North Korea, is a very powerful tool that communist regimes always use. CNN, the leftist media, is a very strong, powerful tool, and I think everybody on the left knows it, of changing people's opinions and creating strong narratives to push certain political agendas. And so that's why I think offering the opposite view, having the debates, not on the internet, letting both conservative and liberal views be heard, both sides, I think in that free market interaction, freedom always wins. And so that's why I think, the Facebooks or the CNNs or the leftist media is constantly trying to threaten censorship. They've banned us, our live streaming on YouTube, for spam. They said we're producing spam mail. So we're on a different YouTube, et cetera. So we're also experiencing that, either we're a very small channel. We're experiencing that kind of
well, I think you might have.
Would you like to take a break?
Oh, no, I'm okay.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what reason were you given for the reason why you were banned?
Spam.
They didn't say it had anything to do with the content of what you were saying?
No, they said it's you've been flagged for spam or something like that.
And if you were told that
we can get you probably the actual slide.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
And if you were told that they because they thought you were engaging in hate speech?
Well, I mean, that's not for, again, the First Amendment allows you to have freedom of speech, even though it may be.
Not quite. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Can't yell that.
And you can't engage in hateful speech.
Right, or start violent riots, or use, violent rhetoric to start imminent threats of violence, etc. But this has been a trend with Twitter banning Milo Yiannopoulos. It's been a trend with them banning Ann Coulter from Berkeley. It's been a trend with the left as a movement, as a general organization of people who agree on particular political aims, to censor the opposite. That through universities, we've seen it, even in the UK banning.
Just stick with you for a second, because that's a huge issue that we're not getting into.
Well, I mean, I think I'm just part of that group.
You're part of.
The SPLC also sees them as, quote, hate mongers and people on hate watch lists.
You look like that doesn't bother you at all that people think you're a hate monger.
Well, not that the SPLC. That doesn't bother me at all.
Anybody else? There are other people who say that you engage in hate speech.
No, I mean, it usually comes from the left. I mean, I don't think people on the right may disagree with our Christian theological perspectives, but they usually won't say we're hate mongers. It's usually from the left that we get that. So it doesn't really bother me.
Is there anything else that you would like to add about Sanctuary Church, or your preachings, or your followers, anything at all?
No, no. I just, yeah, thank you for coming down and from California. I know it's a long way, and
I live
appreciate
actually in New York City. So.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's not that long.
Okay.
And in fact, I want to bring my kids back because it's such a beautiful part of the
She's
country.
from New York
It really is, yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for.
All right, well, there you go, folks. That's the interview. That's the real interview. You saw it first. You saw it first. I think I smashed her. I think I totally smashed her. I felt after that, I was like, man, she thought she was so smart. She was so uneducated on so many issues. She's so uneducated. I was like speaking to her, I was like, are you like an elementary school student or something? Are you kidding me? But again, you can see that's the real interview. That's now online. We're going to put that up. And watch how they try to edit. Watch how they try to spice in. You can get some hints of how their program on us is going to be. They're going to talk to ex-Moonies. They're going to talk to disgruntled, young people or whatever, that generally don't believe in anything other than atheism. They're products of the sort of liberal educational relativist program. So they'll get that kind of stuff. There's others, you can see how she tried to bait me into these little questions, trying to bait me. Get me into these questions. She's so rude. She's always interrupting. So, but there she is. That's Elizabeth Vargas. That will be on A&E, in their series that will begin tomorrow, Memorial Day. So be sure to check that out. Hey, the more that spreads, the more this video is. We're going to put it up on YouTube and say, cults and A&E's cults and what is that called? Extreme Beliefs Exposed or something like that. Maybe we'll do something like that. Okay, guys, do something like that. And let's post it as a separate video. So that way people can find it on our website. They can see exactly what the interview was about. They can see it in context because they're going to take everything out of context. They're going to take stuff, mix it around, splice it in to make us look crazy. But people will get to see it in context. And, we're releasing this before they do the interview on us. So, share it to people, let them see this is exposed. A&E is going to be exposed before they try to do something that only hurts their credibility. This is what's so awesome with the internet is that the left has really exposed themselves for being totalitarian communist propagandists. They're completely propagandists. And they lie through their teeth. They try to pretend that they're so nice to you, but behind the scenes, they're machinating and how they're going to tear and shred you up. But it only ends in their downfall because they've done it so many times. They've banked on that sort of invisible veil that they've had with the control of narrative and control of media. So now they can't do that anymore because of the internet. That's why they're trying to censor people. That's trying to shut, conservative voices down on the internet. Why are they bothering us? We're a very small internet channel. What the heck is wrong with them? They banned us now twice on 2 different channels. Our live streaming is down. That's how afraid they are because if conservatives, right, the left is freaking out about us and they're bringing publicity, tremendous, millions of people are hearing about, what we're preaching. And hearing about the rod of iron and crowns was actually a very empowering message. I think these liberals secretly actually love the message like, oh my, yes, I want to be a king too. Yes. But then they have to, oh crap, but it's all decentralized and everybody else is a king. No, I don't like that. Usually it's like they have like this inner lust for power because they're a cult of power, right? So it's actually a very powering message we're giving. But at the same time, it comes with empowerment. It also comes with humility. And it also comes with non-delusional lifestyle. It also understanding and empowering other people to have dominion of the use of force and allow them to be kings and queens as well. It's such an empowering message. So they are secretly attracted to it and secretly attracted to me. They're putting me all over these posters and everything. I don't know why, but they're attracted to me somehow. But the right is watching us. The right is watching us. The right is watching us. They move, of course, a lot slower. And they're watching, okay, Washington Post is doing this stuff. Okay, we know the Washington Post. We know who they are. We know they're part of the enemy machine. We know they're part of the, Democratic apparatus for propaganda. We know they have the $600 billion deal with the CIA, with Amazon. Just ridiculous, okay? We know they're a propaganda machine. Okay, so they're saying this about that? Well, I don't think that's extreme. I don't think that's crazy. Okay, all the liberals on the comment sees they're crazy. There's one comment on their website apparently that says, we know who's going to be the next president of the NRA now. They're saying, I'm going to be the next president of the NRA. That's what they're saying. Okay? They're freaking out because we're not only talking out of our mouths. We're not only talking like historical or sociological perspective. We're talking biblical perspective. And we're talking a powerful biblical message that shows sovereignty, that shows the right of kings, that is given to the people that Christ will, together with Christ, will rule the world. And it will not be a totalitarian reign. We talked about this with Larry Pratt on his show. That's going to be out June 2nd. So now the conservative media, and through Mr. Larry Pratt, God bless him, he really is a John Ambassador figure. GCN, a radio station, reaches about 25 million people across the country. So you will have millions of people now, conservatives and libertarians coming in contact with the Rod of Iron message, with the Crown message, and understanding from a biblical perspective. And that's why they're freaking out, because in the end they know this is not only an empowering message, it's biblical. So because it's biblical, you can't ignore it. And if you're serious about the Bible, you're evangelical and conservative, you can't ignore this message. You have to actually try to look into it. And they also, the evangelical crowd knows that it's the last days. So they're trying to find, they're saying, when will Jesus come? When will his kingdom come? When will his kingship come? They're talking about this. But every person that they're putting up in front of them has a centralized picture, has the Pope. You know, the Pope says the Catholic Church will be the kingdom of heaven and earth. That's what the Catholics say. The Catholic Church is the kingdom of heaven and earth. Well, we know that all that builds is totalitarianism, pedophile cults. All that does is they have a Vatican Bank. They're nothing different than a socialist communist country, other than the Christian language and these priest investments who they claim is holy. So we know that those kind of systems will lead to the same governance, socialism, communism, political Satanism. There's only one place on this earth that is connected to somebody who claimed that he was the Lord of the Second Advent and that he established a kingship. And if you look at what they're offering, that is, through the Constitution of China Go, even the Washington Post has to admit that it is a powerful document. That's a quote, folks. That's a quote. That's a quote. We're going to use that quote like crazy, okay? The China-Go Constitution of China-Go is a powerful document, Washington Post. They gave it to us like ridiculous. I mean, they never used to give us those kind of freebies, my gosh. And then even in that article, maybe we'll cover it next week, we'll go through it and just, it's insane. They added all these people that he usually would have taken out. Like when Regis was talking to people and people were calling him from around the country, they had one guy from New Jersey saying, you people are crazy, yeah, blah, 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 all this kind of leftists. So they added that in. And then they had one guy from Oklahoma that called in to the phone and said, hey, I love what you guys do. How do I join? You know, they had that kind of guy. Then they had a guy from, British Columbia that called in and said, hey, I love Pastor Sean, man. This is great. I'm like, hey, they normally in Washington Post would take that out. They would take those positive quotes out and only put negative quotes. Look at the long list of comments and read through them. Oh, they're crazy. They're a cult. They're militants. They're, creating FBI should watching them. They would only add those. The fact that they added other opinions and actually more positive ones, 2 out of 3 were positive. I mean, totally positive. Not even neutral. I mean, totally positive. I want to join your movement. I love Pastor Sean. I love the message. It's like crazy. They would have never, in their own, I don't know what this guy was on. He was on something. Maybe he was on the Holy Ghost. Praise God, huh? But he came here. He thought he'd see a crazy cult. And he meant, what did he say? He said, when you meet sanctuary people, they're actually really wonderful people. They're like the stuff of good neighbors. I mean, they're really nice people. So he was shocked. He thought we'd all come out with AK-47s going, But, they came down, and I don't know what happened to him or what spirit possessed him. I think it's a God spirit. They wrote that kind of glowing incredible, okay? Now, that being said, A&E is going to do this. That's why it's important to understand the context. When they try to twist stuff, edit stuff, piece things in to make us look like we're lying about stuff, or we're saying this or that about this, you saw the whole thing. You saw the whole context. You saw everything we said. You saw the whole interview. And the world is also going to see the whole interview, because this is going out worldwide. It's going to be out on our channel. And even they're trying to ban it, we'll put it up on Tim Elder's channel. We'll put it on somebody else's channel. We will get this out so people can see the actual interview and the actual content of the interview in its full context instead of it's spun out of whack, okay? But this is what's so exciting, is that at the same time this happened to the left, they're freaking out and they're actually pushing more publicity towards us, which only helps the message of the kingdom go out further. Now the conservatives are forced to look seriously at what we're teaching. Forced to look seriously at the biblical passages. And you can look them up for yourself. You can look them up for yourself. I'm not making any one of those passages up. You guys all checked me out. You guys all checked me out on it. I'm not making up any one of those biblical scriptures. You can check them out for yourself, and you can see what we're talking about is the only clear explanation for God's kingdom, which is not a totalitarian, tyrannical, switcheroo God that once was good and now is evil and ruling like any other communist dictator. So again, I don't know what God is doing, but all I know is that he's got us in his hand, okay? Amen. What can I say? That's all I got to say. There it is. It's out. You guys saw it first. Like and share and subscribe it and, all that. All right, SOS, come on up. Let's all rise and give praise to God. Pray for us this week, okay? As we're trying to Blaze Show, pray for us. And tell us how the A&E program came out.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Oh, bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. Oh, bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. Yes, I'll worship your holy name. Lord, I'll worship your holy name. soldiers of the truth, called by a God on high. Now is the time, march to the world, sounding the battle cry. Too long the dark night of sin held in fear the people of the world. Will drive the darkness away, bringing in the new day. Lift high, the banner of truth on high. March forward, crossing the sea to the end of the earth. Heaven and earth, all are made anew, blessed by the light of God. Evil and sin vanish away, burned in the holy fire. This is the land of the heart, every people living as one. Loud voices filling the land, sing a joyful song. So what do? Lift high, the banner of truth on high. March forward, crossing the sea to the end of the earth. Proud is my heart, bursting with my hope. We are the youth of God. See how we go, marching as one, marching in His command. 5 colors shine in the rain. Every people, every race of man will shake the heaven and earth with a victory song. Lift high, the banner of truth on high. March forward, crossing the sea to the end of the. So what do? Lift high, the banner of truth on high. March forward, crossing the sea to the end of the earth. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From the Father's seed, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. And I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. We are the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. Oh, I am a child of God. Yes, I am. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Full of faith, yes, I am a child of God. So we have a special offering. It's getting down to the end of the first semester of the Sanctuary Kingdom Academy. So all the cadets, they wanted to offer 2 songs that they chose to perform here today. So please welcome the Sanctuary Kingdom Academy cadets.
treasures in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved
만화의 왕 전진 자부님 3대 왕권 억만세 천의국 장군 억만세. Amen. Hug your neighbor JCC2.
You did a great job.